Right, today we're going to be looking at social anxiety, and we're going to be seeing that in Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, in this episode of Metal Lee exhibiting his social anxiety.
Yeah, something you may not know about us is that we're massive anime fans. We absolutely love anime, and we often find that there is a range of different anxiety and psychological things going on in anime. So we're really excited to do a reaction video. We get pretty passionate and emotional about our anime, so I hope you enjoy this reaction video, and if you do, smash the like button because it's really good for the algorithm, so that more people can see these videos. Cool, let's do it.
All right.
ちょっと緊張するかも。僕にお任せください。
Oh no.
なあ、それは何なんだ？あ、これはですね、緊張を直す必殺のアイテムなのですよ。これでもう緊張とはおさらばです。さあ、行きましょう。
So, an item that gets rid of his anxiety. That's interesting. What would you call that, Michael?
A safety behaviour.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Elaborate on that. So safety behaviour is behaviour that we do to help ourselves feel safe. But unfortunately it maintains the anxiety because we attribute us only being safe because we had that. And so as soon as you take that item, well in this case item, away, then that anxiety is still very much a problem.
Oh no.
こいつに渡した途端緊張しやがった。
すぐそこで落っことしちゃったんだ。すみません。それ全然聞いてないじゃない。緊張のせいではありませんよ。ちょっと手が滑っただけです。そもそもなんでそんなもん急にしだしたんだよ。あ、これはですね、緊張せずにやらなければならない大事な修行がこれから待っているのですよ。その修行のために買ったのです。こいつそんなもんが本気で効くと思ってんのか。
Special training where you need to not be anxious is just a recipe for getting anxious.
第一開門。はい。
One way to chop down trees.
Yeah.
Oh yeah!
I don't think they're going to use it for fireworks.
では、始めよう。
So
八門遁甲は己のリミッターを外し、すごいパワーを得ることができる。体内に流れるチャクラをコントロールしている場所は8つ。このうち1つ目の門、開門をこじ開けた状態が今のだ。忍術が使えない僕が唯一お前に伝えられる技だ。そろそろ伝授しようと思ってね。
パパが得得した体術の究極奥義、それをついに僕が。
前に言った通り、この技は門を開ける数が増えるたび体にかかる負担は相当なものになる。僕の師匠ガイ先生は八門遁甲の影響で全身に大怪我を負った。そしてこの技を得得するためには何よりも己自身とどう向き合うか、その覚悟が試されるんだ。お前にその覚悟があるかい？
ちょっと待ってください。お願いしますね。
どうした？
はい、もちろんです。
その首飾りは何なんだい？
あ、これはですね、緊張を直すアイテムなのです。
緊張？
今回の修行は絶対緊張するわけにはいかないので、通販で見つけました。すごく調子がいい気がするんです。
it really makes me feel great. Why does it make him feel great?
Because he feels safer with it on. There's a relief from the anxiety, and we tend to describe that relief feeling as feeling great.
Yeah. So by him having that necklace, he's using that to make himself feel better, but it's stopping him from getting the exposure to the fact that there isn't things that he needs, so that level of anxiety.
He's going to feel like he's useless without that necklace, which is a big problem.
He puts all of the I coped and everything's okay because of the necklace.
ああ、しかしメタル、何をそんなに暗い顔をしてるんだ。
それは。
なるほど、八門遁甲か。
はい。きっとパパはすぐ緊張する僕に嫌気がさして。
よし。
So he's relating his father saying no because of him having anxiety, and so he feels like he has to get rid of that feeling, which is
making him more anxious.
Yeah, and it's going to push him more towards trying to find external ways of dealing with that anxiety. Yeah. He's really seeing himself as being broken and there being something wrong with him.
Yes, and if you view yourself as being the problem and deficient, then how could it come, like the solution come from inside?
Yeah, so he's looking externally for solutions. So it looks like a performance anxiety.
Yeah,
type.
it does look like mostly performance anxiety. I mean, he seemed anxious or nervous about having been caught staring at Gai Sensei's cast. So there was some social anxiety there, which isn't performance social type.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does seem to mostly struggle with performance situations. So social anxiety performance subtype is when you mostly struggle with situations where you're required to perform in front of people. And so then it's considered to be of that subtype. Some people only struggle with performance type situations, and some people will struggle with both performance type situations and other general social situations as well.
Yeah, difficult for him with what he's doing, that he
the way
actually needs to be doing his job in front of at least his team.
Yep.
And so there's a certain amount of nerves. But he seems a bit more comfortable doing stuff around his team. It's when there's people
Yeah, but also they're given ninja tasks to go and complete. And so that's a performance situation.
Oh, so he has to complete the task.
Because you have to report back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's even worse from when it's like a tournament or something where there's a crowd.
But the good thing about when what you love doing or want to do is impacts on your anxiety is it gives you a reason to do something about overcoming your anxiety. Yeah, there's a reason why you want to overcome your performance anxiety, because performing is a big part of your desired occupation or career or whatever.
Yeah, Whereas it would be a big problem if he quit to avoid the anxiety, then he might never improve.
Then he wouldn't have that thing that pushes him to move through his anxiety and overcome it.
Yeah.
Cool.
緊張のせいで遅れてしまいました。一つでは効果が弱いのですかね。こうなったらもう一つ買いましょう。
No!
And that's actually an interesting thing. We often make that mistake. We go, obviously I just don't have enough of this, right? I need 2 lucky socks. I need to avoid my triggers more. I need to be way better at this. Or like when we're worried about, we've got anxiety about money, right? We go, I need more money. But then when we do that, we double the amount of money coming in or whatever. We don't feel more confident because the confidence isn't actually to do with that external
and
thing.
then also, if we're using this as a safety behavior, we're also going, I should be safe with this. So if I'm not, I need more of this, rather than actually going,
different strategy.
This isn't what's affecting it.
Yeah. We don't go, this thing isn't effective, I'll try something else. We go, I need more of this thing.
僕は体術が苦手ですから、もっと勉強しようと思って今日は来たんです。
いい心がけだ。俺の授業を聞くだけで強くなれるぞ。
はい、心して聞くっす。
僕は何としてでも緊張を克服するヒントを手に入れてみせます。
The cool thing is that he's not just complaining about his anxiety. So there's certain levels in your journey with anxiety. The first level is when you're in that just distress zone and all you can do is kind of complain and get quite hopeless about your anxiety. Cool thing is that he's moved up to the next level, which we call the decider. So this is a person who they realize that it's a big enough pain point in their life that they want to do something about it. It really helps if there's a reason you want to overcome it, like so that he can be a better ninja. And so he's in that decider zone and he's looking for a process, the solution. And the great thing is that he has that motivation and he's got that commitment to doing something about the anxiety, and so he's in a really good place. He's just at the moment looking for the solution to his anxiety in the wrong places. But it's great that he's in that decider zone. He's not just falling into hopelessness and helplessness.
ました。では質問のある者はいるか。
本当に後悔はないんですか？
ああ、ない。この足のおかげで俺は今でも努力することができる。今を嘆くばかりではなく、それと真に向き合うことによって人はさらに強くなれると俺は思うのだ。
I think he's giving a hint there to Metal that he needs to accept that he has anxiety in order to be able to move forward, accepting the truth of that anxiety.
Yeah.
It's a very acceptance and commitment therapy type style.
Yeah.
And it could be really effective for him.
I think it's also really interesting that Guy Sensei has no regrets, but he throws himself fully into life without avoidance.
Yeah.
So even
He
though
definitely doesn't have social anxiety.
yeah, but it's interesting.
Springtime of youth.
It's interesting with anxiety how you want to predict dangers in the future, thing that can go wrong. Like, I could lose my leg and I could be paralyzed, or I could be this, that, and the other. And so we try to avoid those outcomes. And it's interesting that he has had an outcome which we may feel like we want to avoid with anxiety, losing the use of one of his legs.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have regret because he was following his values. And because he's living out of his values, then the fact he lost his leg was just a small price to pay for the fact that he got to protect those he cares about and those he loves and end the war, be a part of that.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have regrets. And it's interesting because I think people with anxiety have a lot of regret, not because they did things and bad things happened, but because as people who struggle with anxiety, we so often avoid the things, and then we have a very small life, and we also don't do the things that we value because of that anxiety getting in the way and choosing avoidance over tackling and hitting it straight on.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's mentioned when in interviews with older people, when they talk about regrets, what they regret is their anxiety or fear stopping them from taking risks, and they wish they'd done more risks, tried more things in their life.
Yeah, definitely.
さあ始めようか。
注目されてる。こいつは当てにならねえな。こりゃ
So what we're probably seeing something akin to there is a bit of a panic attack. And when you have panic attacks that are caused by social situations, it's in keeping with social anxiety. It just means you're getting really high anxiety from that. It doesn't mean you've got panic disorder.
Right, yeah.
And so that's rendered him, paralyzed, unable to really fight well. He's just thinking fully about how he's coming across to the other students there who are paying him rapt attention.
It is really interesting in a moment there, though, that the anxiety makes him unpredictable.
Yes.
And so he doesn't actually land a hit. He manages to dodge because he's freaking out.
Yeah.
Which is interesting where they're going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see where they take that later.
Cool. Okay.
それまで勝者ガイ先生。
片してこれかよ。歴戦の英雄はやっぱすげえぜ。
どうしたメタル、新規臭いぞ。
ガイ先生はやっぱりすごいです。自分と向き合ってそれを克服している。それに比べて僕はいつまでも緊張を克服できないでいる。そんな弱い僕にパパは愛想をつかせたんです。
Oh, feeling like your parent is disgusted with you. Like disgust is a big word.
Yeah.
That's like disgust comes from when you feel like you could be contaminated by something.
Yeah.
It's that recoil response.
Yeah.
And the fact that he feels like his dad is recoiling from him because of his anxiety. Oh my goodness, that's so hard. There's a level of shame there, which is a big barrier to overcoming the anxiety.
Well, unfortunately, it's part of the cycle, right? So the same beliefs that cause him to think that other people are going to view him negatively are as a result of deep down him viewing himself as not very good. And so then with that in place, he's going to assume that his father will view him that way, which is going to make him more anxious and continue to struggle with that issue, which is going to convince him that his father views him that way, or that he's not coming across well.
Those spirals of kind of self, like they feed into each other.
Our own view of ourself really impacts on how we expect other people view us. Because that's an image that we hold of ourselves, that our brain projects and thinks that other people, we think we're seeing what other people see, but we're not. It's a projection. It's just our image of ourself projected onto our idea of other people.
Yep. Oh, I was hoping that he would see Guy Sensei, who has a disability, being able to move beyond that, and that he can actually have one leg and one leg that's not functional and one that is, and still be able to do amazing things. That even with his anxiety,
he could have anxiety and still do amazing things.
But
first he'll need to accept it.
He's still seeing his anxiety. He's almost like flipped it and gone, wow, I must be so terrible if I can't do this when he can do that with what he's got. It's like he's kind of doubled on the shame there by kind of comparative suffering, saying this person, I'm not as bad off as this person, and yet I'm not doing well. And I think with anxiety you can do that. You go, oh, I'm not in as scary or horrible situation as this other person, but they're fine.
My problem's not a real problem.
Yeah.
Even though anxiety can be really debilitating, it can be really hard an impact on a huge amount of our life.
Yeah, so there's a certain amount of acceptance of it that he is missing.
Yeah, and with acceptance, the opposite of acceptance is denial, right? People think acceptance is about getting resigned to it, but acceptance is actually about recognizing, acknowledging what the issue is. It'd be like if Guy Sensei was like just going to ignore his leg. He'd just end up damaging himself. He wouldn't develop a new way of fighting. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas acknowledging it, he can then stand on one leg, fight, or do specific training around it, that kind of thing. And similarly, Metal Lee needs to do the same thing: acknowledge the anxiety and then do special training around it.
Yeah.
But he can't do that until he acknowledges it.
そうではないぞ、メタル。お前はすでにリーの真意に気づいているはずだ。己と真に向き合う。これがどういうことなのか、もう一度よく考えてみるといい。
Then we can just think about it more.
八門炭鉱第一。
己と真に向き合う。これがどういうことなのか、もう一度よく考えてみるといい。
And the truth is,
やはり
you are
これが
feeling anxious.
いや、これがなければ緊張を克服することすらできない。
リーよ、
ガイ先生、
メタルのやつはずっと悩んでいるぞ。まさに青春真っ只中だな。
まさかガイ先生を巻き込むことになるとは本当にすみません。
お前と俺の仲だ。水臭いことを言うな。
You can see a bit of where his son got some anxiety from. If Lee's acting like that, apologizing for getting Guy Sensei involved and for how his son's being and stuff, we often learn those kinds of roots from our parents. Now, a parent might not have like social anxiety, like it's
Yeah.
not really affecting them, but there's those roots of thinking that we
Yeah.
pick up on, and then we just take it a bit further, or
Yeah.
practice it, so to speak, practice
Yeah.
it in social
Or
situations.
misinterpret that
Yeah.
to mean
Yep.
that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, generalize it.
Yeah, they're apologizing to somebody else about me, so there must be something wrong with me, rather than it's their insecurity,
Yeah.
not actually about you. I think that it's deeply problematic that he feels like there's something wrong and broken about him, that he needs something external to fix.
Yeah.
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 それよりメタルをどうするつもりだ。
そうですね。ガイ先生に頼ってばかりもいられません。ここからは僕なりのやり方でメタルと向き合ってみます。
あとちょっとで盗賊を捕まえられたのにね。
すみません、僕のせいで。
ああ、そうだな。明らかにお前のせいだ。そんなにジャラジャラ鳴ってたらここにいると教えてるようなもんだ。
それはそうかもしれません。でも僕はこれがないと。
メタル。
パパ、どうしたのですか。
お前に勝負を申し込む。
勝負？
明日の朝アカデミー訓練場で待つ。
ちょっと待ってください。なんで急にそんな。
八門遁甲を得得したいのならこの勝負を受けろ。ただし会場には観客を呼んでおく。
どうして。
緊張して何もできないか。無理なら今は諦めろ。
Wow.
この勝負に向き合わない時点で八門遁甲を得得できるとは到底思えないからね。
It's pretty intense.
ああ、それと僕に一撃でも食らわすことができればお前の勝ちとしよう。
Okay, that's reasonable.
This is a maybe achievable goal. His dad's pretty amazing though.
ガイ先生、僕はどうすれば。
メタルよ、緊張がそんなに恐ろしいか。
There we go.
緊張するお前、それが真の偽らざるお前だと俺は思うがな。
Actually, that's a good point. So, I was talking before about panic disorder, and panic disorder is when we have fear about anxiety. So, he could well have social performance anxiety and panic disorder
Yeah.
going on.
Comorbidity, eh? There's
Oh,
a
yeah, and
lot of
comorbidity
that.
is more
So
common
much
than
of
not.
that.
So, so it's actually quite likely that he's got both of those going on there. And so, just like Guy Sensei's pointed out there, he's afraid of the anxiety. And then that's another cycle, right? Because he's afraid of the anxiety often incapacitates him, especially in important situations that he values doing well in. And then he's going to fear the anxiety more because it paralyzed him, right? So he's like, oh, I better not have more of that or I won't be able to move.
Yeah, so it's very cyclical there, how it affects him. But it does seem like the necklaces seems like that's more for the panic. It's to stop feeling
the anxiety.
Stop the anxiety rather than stop bad things.
Rather than to make him look better in a social situation.
He's not wearing them to stop something, to make himself look good. He's to make
Except it's
wearing
social performance, so he's trying to perform better.
Okay.
So it's kind of doing both.
Yeah.
Keeping the anxiety away so he can perform better. So yeah, more on the panic side.
More does seem more on the panic side.
己と真に向き合うこと、それがどういうことか今のお前ならわかるはずだ。
The exit is someone running.
メタル君来るかな。
There it is. Good start.
メタルよ。
この状況から逃げずに来るとは見直したよ。
ガイ先生はリハビリに励むことで己と向き合っている。
Here we go. what you were hoping for.
でも僕はネックレスに頼り緊張から逃げていた。
Oh wow, wow. So he's
recognized he was trying to run away.
Yeah, well, he's got a good example. I think it's really helpful when you're overcoming your anxiety to have an example of somebody who's gone through it as well.
Yeah.
I know for myself, when I was in those early stages of overcoming depression, anxiety, and trauma, seeing someone else who'd gone through it, it was like, well, if they went through that and they've come out the other side, and so can I. And they didn't do it by running away. And so he's acknowledging the avoidance, which and that the necklaces are a safety behaviour.
Yeah,
like he's
acknowledging
recognised
that,
that he's using that instead of confronting it. So that's
which is an
really
awesome start. Like that's a huge
huge.
start. That recognition is
massive.
a big step and is really important.
Yeah.
Like that alone is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Let's see.
なのは緊張をなくすことではなく緊張と向き合い
Wow.
受け入れるこ
Look,
と
there
だ
we go. Acceptance.
からもう緊張から逃げないと
Awesome. He's going to get some
心に
exposure.
誓ったんです
Oh, an oath, so he's made a
誓いを
commitment.
今ここで
Oh,
証明してみせます
no. Anime style necklace smashing.
Nice.
そうです
ようやく分かったんだね。では緊張を受け入れたその状態でいかに戦えるのか試してみよう。
Acknowledgement of anxiety. Awesome. Oh, yeah.
笑われています
And that's an interesting thing. When people smirk or laugh or frown, and it has nothing to do with us, with social anxiety, it's really common to misinterpret those as signals that someone is laughing at us or is frowning at us. They're upset about what we've said. Whereas in research, what generally turns out to be the case is that they're thinking about something else. So say you're even talking to someone and then a kind of a slight frown comes up and there's a bit of a distant look. They're often thinking about something later their day or like that they need to get done or whatever. And they kind of went somewhere else, they frowned a little bit, and we go, oh no, it's something I said. And actually they were onto something else in their own head.
Yeah.
So vast majority of the time, it's not actually about us. Those cues that we can misinterpret.
Even when they are thinking about us and laughing, something we've learned really recently is really interesting is they're not laughing at you, they're laughing of their image of you that isn't you, and that they have an idea and projection, and usually that is based on how they feel about themselves. So I imagine a lot of those people who are laughing right then actually don't feel incredibly capable themselves of doing those things. And I find it really interesting in anime, this idea between like somebody who is a genius and someone who has to work really hard for something, and is often this sort of pushing down the person who's working hard for something and doesn't have natural talent. And it was really funny in one episode we watched recently in another anime we watched that really boiled down to that if this person can get there without necessarily natural talent but just through their own dedication can achieve something that you think is impossible for you, what does that say about yourself? And so I think it's really interesting that the way people respond to us is way more based on themselves and how they feel about themselves. So yeah, even if they are laughing at you, they're actually, it's more to do with their own beliefs about themselves. Yeah, it's not about you, it's almost never about you.
Yeah.
Cool.
こんな僕が八問遁甲を会得するなんてありえませんよね。でももう緊張から逃げないことだけは証明するんです。
お前ってやつ
Fair enough.
手加減はしないよ。ここだ。
すっごい見られてます。
なんと
Drunken boxing anxiety style.
あの時だ。
Some muscle memory built up from all the fighting practice. His body's almost getting on his own.
変則的で動きが読みづらい。
Because he knocked him over.
Oh, there goes the statue.
Oh my god, oh my god.
そこまで勝者メタルリー
僕の勝利ですか
見事だメタル。緊張と向き合った途端にこれとは恐れ入ったよ。
また一から修行をやり直しです。そしていつか必ず八門遁甲を会得してみせます。
会得も何も今の一撃は第一開門を開いた状態だったよ。
おそらく極度の緊張によってありえないほどのアドレナリンが放出されたんだろう。それが開門へと導いたのだ。そしてメタル、そんなことはお前にしかできん。おまけに予測不能の動きで相手を翻弄するとは俺の言った通りだったな。己と向き合えば強くなれるとな。
Yep. Facing yourself will make you strong.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I feel like it's really interesting with anime how they go really hardcore and real epic, so things happen really quickly and changes that would take quite a long time for most people can kind of be like, oh my gosh, now like next level.
Yep. Training montage.
Because he's kind of gone from the decider phase to the master phase.
Yeah.
Because the master, you know, he's like bypassed regulation and challenger.
Yep.
Like, well, he did the challenging. He's challenging his anxiety, but he's moved into that amazingly.
We jumped into it fully behavioural with full commitment.
Yeah. And it's interesting how he hit that mastery zone where mastery, when you're kind of regulating challenging, you're trying to manage the anxiety. When you hit mastery of anxiety, that's when you actually get to use the energy, the force of anxiety to propel you forward to do the things you really want to. And he's actually become a better ninja than he was before, to the point where he could actually even hit his incredible dad. Yay, family.
Watch the statue.
So that's really awesome, and that's I think something people need to realize is that with anxiety, when you do the work and when you go through, you know, challenging your anxiety, facing your anxiety, accepting your anxiety, that it's not just about that, it's about the next level of forward propulsion. I think so many people try to get to a place where they're normal, where they don't struggle, where they don't have anxiety, where they're like everyone else, but actually that anxiety and that work to overcome anxiety and embrace the energy of anxiety can actually get you incredible things in life. And it's really cool that he's like, this is a great example of that.
Yeah, and from the panic side of things, I mean, you can go in, if you go in that intensely, you can get a quicker change, right?
Yeah.
The social anxiety is more about his internal core beliefs about himself.
Yeah.
So those are going to take a bit more time. And as you can see, he's still socially anxious. But the panic side of things, you can quite quickly disprove if you jump in both feet. You can disprove the core belief of that, which is that it will, in this case, it will paralyze me.
Yeah.
I won't
if
be
I
able
feel
to fight.
anxious, I won't be able to fight.
Yeah,
Where it's
and
like,
you could.
okay, I'm going to throw myself fully into the anxiety. I'm going to allow myself to be in front of people. I'm just going to like dare it to do its worst. I'm going to accept the anxiety. And then it didn't stop him.
Yeah. So his brain can't say, like, I will always get paralyzed now, because he's got at least one example here of where he wasn't, and he fought really well and he won.
And that's where exposure is really important, because it gives us that experience of what actually happens when we face our anxiety. We have all these mental imagined situations going through our head of what happens when we do the thing that we're anxious about. It's really important to get that experience, and the amygdala especially, that's where it's going to learn, and it's going to change the way you respond to those sort of situations.
Yep, because it'll only learn from those, only learn from actually doing them, that experience.
Exactly.
Yep.
Cool. Now it's time for 3,000 push-ups.
Of course.
あれお前あのネックレスはどうしたんだってばさ。あれはもう必要ないんです。緊張する僕こそ偽らざる僕ですから。
まあいろいろあったっつが
すごかったよね。第5版にはこの国宝建築を配達してもらいます。
Don't give it to Metal!
絶対に壊さないでください。
Oh no.
I mean, that was a lot of pressure. That was a lot of pressure right there.
So yeah, it's and there's the thing of accepting like his way of doing things, and I think it's okay to accept that certain things are within your natural bent and certain things aren't, and him expecting his anxiety is going that, you know, my ninja skills are unpredictable and not good for precious phases.
Yeah. I mean, some of them have like claws for hands, so like same deal, right? Like,
it's like they should be matching the DARS better with the type of people. I think.
Absolutely. I mean, his father had to deal with not being able to do any ninjutsu, so if he's not going to be doing any delicate vase carrying assignments, then it's not a big deal. He can still really live his dream. Even while not being able to specialize in delicate tasks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
Also, there's a way that the lady could have presented it there that wasn't quite
really unhelpful.
Yeah, I mean that upped the performance anxiety in that kind of situation.
Yeah,
but I think that was part of the humor of that scene.
In it. Yeah, and also that he's challenged his anxiety. He's made huge progress, but he's still anxious. He still has anxiety to a certain extent.
And that's why he's accepting that he has anxiety. He's not going, oh, I'm now over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is more realistic.
Like using, I think, more than going, I never want to feel anxious, because anxiety is a normal emotion.
Yeah, without it, we have no adrenaline. We don't have that energy for getting that important task done. In
dangerous situations, we need that, and also to motivate us and push us forward. That can be really helpful. So yeah, I think I know a lot of performers who feel anxious before going on stage, but that's the energy that propels them forwards. And then instead of feeling that hold of dread, I think it's really about interpretation. I know after a performance, when I've done performing on stage, it's the sort of, there can be this amazing elation, and it's the same experience as the anxiety. It's the same
body state,
but it's the interpretation. You know, I did this amazing performance and everyone loved it, and
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm buzzing.
Yeah. And I think people who have lots of anxiety, if they can reinterpret that, they can have a really exciting life because they experience those sensations quite strongly.
Because the genetic aspect of it is a stronger adrenal response, right? The genetics doesn't seem to determine what kind of anxiety, as far as we know, but it determines that strength of adrenal response. But that could mean you really enjoy extreme sports or debating or performing on stage or something, because it's that much more exciting.
And a lot of people I know want to decrease their adrenal response and almost get to this like don't feel, don't respond situation. And actually, if you don't have emotions, you don't feel a rush of adrenaline, you also don't get to experience joy and excitement and really happy, because that comes from being that adrenal response, and it's very similar. It's just that interpretation. So we want to change that interpretation and then give you a full life, not remove that response, which could be a really positive thing for you.
Yeah, because those really high-end panic debilitating kind of ones, right, that comes from the interpretation of the anxiety as dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So when you do what you're talking about there, if you're interpreting it positively, it's not going to hit those high debilitating highs, right? And so if you're going, oh, I can't possibly accept that, those highs, those are awful, I want that gone, then that automatically goes when you're doing what we're talking about here.
Yeah, cool. And there are ways in which you can manage anxiety. Like, it's not good to be constantly at a really high adrenal response, but there's things you can do to bring down that anxiety and to a more manageable level. There's things that you can do in terms of reducing the amount of time you spend anxious during a day, reducing the intensity of your anxiety, and you can overcome your anxiety. It's not about losing the feeling, it's about reinterpreting. And we actually do a webinar on how to overcome anxiety. So if you struggle with anxiety and want to overcome it, then we'd love for you to join us for this live webinar. I do it regularly, so make sure you sign up so that you can join our next one.
We'll
so
pop
you
the
can
link
learn
down
about
below
that.
for you.
Yeah, so we'd love you to join. Jump on the link below and
You can
sign up for that.
completely free, and then you can check that out when Becky's next doing it.
Cool. So yeah, click the link below. Hope you like this video, and we plan to do some more and share both our love for psychological information about anxiety and anime.
Yes.
Awesome.